Biodiesels. Biodiesel as a biofuel, it is a renewable energy source and it is also biodegradable. It's a type of liquid fuel that can be used to power diesel engines, and there are different blends of biofuel, which are B100, B20, and B5. Biodiesel is made by growing vegetables and using other sources like animal fats and cooking oils. So the vegetables that are really involved in this process would be palm, soybean, and canola. So the process is basically that you get the biological sources, you remove the oil from those biological sources, refine that oil, and then convert it through transesterification into biodiesel. So onto the production side of things. The plants that are used to make biodiesel go through photosynthesis, which produces energy and oils. And so then then the vegetables themselves have to be refined to make the oils and remove impurities and water. And then transesterification is how we get biodiesel. So it's essentially changing triglyceride into fatty acid at methyl ester, which is basically done by mixing the triglyceride in with alcohol and a catalyst to produce the final product of biodiesel. Economic impact of biodiesel would be that it creates new jobs in agriculture, research, and transportation, which provides people with a source of income to put that money back into the economy. And then it stimulates rural areas because there it requires factories. So there's more stimulation, like people are going to there are people living in the factories, there are people working in the factories, and overall stimulates. And then it produces an alternative type of energy, which allows people to be less dependent on fossil fuels. So there's less of a demand and it decreases import taxes. Also, waste products that will normally be disposed of are being put to use, so there's more money saved. Okay. Biodiesel is like the status of biodiesel is that it's in circulation. It's actually the second most used biofuel in the US for personal and professional use. And then while it is actually still used right now, there still needs to be research to make it more accessible and more sustainable. And then that's a picture of transesterification. Telling the public about biodiesel, the government tells the public about biodiesel through marketing, public announcements, and government initiatives. An example of that would be the Clean Cities program, which lets the public know about renewable energy and in turn biodiesel. And it is also used to power public transportations, and those vehicles will be labeled that they are powered by biodiesel. And then with protests for climate change and stuff like that, groups like Friends of the Earth let other members of the general public know about biodiesel in specific. Okay, so carbon footprint with biodiesel is that biodiesel lowers the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere because it doesn't add to it. And it still produces CO2, but it's significantly less than the carbon dioxide that is being produced by other fossil fuels and petrodiesel. And it produces less and less carbon monoxide while being used in a vehicle. And so it has a smaller carbon footprint. And the CO2 that the vegetables take in is roughly around the same that the biodiesel releases. So there's little to no net gain of CO2. My analysis of biodiesel is that it still needs to be produced and it needs to be more marketed more efficiently. And I would fix that problem. I would fix the problem that biodiesel has when the weather becomes colder because it tends to settle. If funding wasn't an issue, I would have more factories to produce biodiesel. I would use other plants to produce it, and I would offer incentives.